And there we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our election night special. We are recording this on Tuesday, November 3rd, election night in America. It is 7 p.m. on the East Coast as we're recording this. And we are going to do our three stories as usual, but with the added caveat that if there are any election updates or anything notable happens, I have the New York Times open on my computer, and we will update you on those results. And that being said, before I jump into my first story of the day, we have a few election calls. The New York Times has projected that Donald Trump has won the state of Kentucky and will carry their 8 electoral votes. And Joe Biden has won Vermont and it's 3 electoral votes. Like I said, if there are any updates throughout the show, we will update you accordingly. And that being said, let's jump into my first story, which is my election prediction. So basically, because I'm a huge nerd, I was thinking of all of the ways that this election could go and what are the most important states. So I'm just going to go from least controversial to most controversial. So as most of us know, we have an electoral college system. Each state has a predetermined number of electoral votes, and it's a winner-take-all system. So if you win that state, you win all of their electoral votes. So if you look at all of the states that are safe for Joe Biden, you get to 182 electoral votes. And if you look at all of the states that are safe for Donald Trump, you're looking at 88 electoral votes. So from least controversial to most controversial, I believe that Donald Trump will win Iowa and he will win Ohio. I think that Joe Biden will win New Hampshire, Nevada, Maine, and Maine's 2nd Congressional District. And so we get to the really important swing states, starting off with Arizona. I think Biden's going to win Arizona because, and the reason I think he's going to win Arizona, and by the time this episode goes live, you may already know who has won the election, so feel free to come at me in the comments. So the reason why I think Joe Biden's going to win Arizona is because there's a Senate race there, and the Democrat is way, way, way up on the Republican. So that's going to sort of drive people to vote for Biden, because like they aren't going to vote for the Democrat for the Senate race. They're not going to vote for Mark Kelly in the Senate race and then vote for Trump, right? So I think Joe Biden's going to win Arizona. I think Trump is going to win Texas. And just the fact that we're even talking about Texas as a state that is competitive is very worrying for Donald Trump and the Republicans, because we're talking about Texas here. Like, Texas should not be competitive, but it is. But I think that Trump is going to win Texas.
Oh, you're saying like it's a possibility that he couldn't win Texas?
Biden could win Texas, but I think that Texas is still Texas, and I think that Trump is going to win Texas. But it's definitely conceivable that Biden wins Texas, even though I don't think it's very likely. Now, the Rust Belt, you got Wisconsin and Michigan, I think, are easily going to go for Biden. Because if you look at the polling, the only polls that have Donald Trump winning those states are the really, really right-leaning polls. And I think 538, which is the website that Nate Silver runs that does election predictions, if I'm not mistaken, he has Biden at like an 85+% chance of winning Wisconsin and Michigan. So now we're getting to the really controversial states. I think Joe Biden is going to win Florida. And that is huge. And the reason why that's so huge is I spent hours last night trying to construct a reasonably realistic election map in which Donald Trump wins the election but loses Florida. And I couldn't do it. Like, you literally cannot make an electoral map where Trump wins the election but loses Florida. So if Florida gets called, I mean, you can turn off your TV and spend the rest of the night getting high with your fish, because the election will be over. And so I think Biden will win Florida. I think it's going to be close, but I think he's going to win Florida. I think Biden is going to win North Carolina because there's a Senate election there. Tom Tillis running against Cal Cunningham, and Cunningham, who's the Democrat, has a pretty big lead. So I think that North Carolina is going to go for Biden. And I think that Pennsylvania is going to go for Biden too, because he has the home state advantage. He was born in Pennsylvania, and the polls are pretty decisive in Pennsylvania. So my total that I have for the election, my official election prediction, is Biden 335 and Trump 203. Reminder, you need 270 to win the election. I have Biden at 335. So I could be wrong. I mean, stranger things have happened, but like, because a lot of people talk about, oh, the polls were wrong in 2016, so it's stupid to look at the polls. But I don't buy that, because the polls in 2016 really weren't that wrong, because there was a 3-point swing, more or less, and that's a pretty normal swing. 3 points is margin of error. And 2020 is not 2016. In order for Trump to win, he would need to outperform the polls even more than he did in 2016. And his strategy last time was nearly perfect, and he barely won. So I think basically this election is over. I could be wrong, but we will be updating you if I am wrong or if I am right. And yeah, that's it. That's my election prediction. What are your thoughts, Skye?
I like all of the hard work that you put into it. Like I definitely did not put that much effort into into the election. Like all I did was vote, and then that's it. Like I haven't watched the news. I haven't read any columns. I haven't. I'm not even on like the New York Times right now, like you are. So
yeah,
I think it's really nice that you did that work.
So, what was your experience like voting? Because you live in North Carolina, swing state. Like, what's your sense of how things are going there?
I don't know. I only know about like where I'm from, so I'm not sure where it was in other places. But where I was from, like we've had early voting, and I guess a lot of people did early vote. But when I went, like there was no line. I was just walk in, walk out. It was pretty simple. There weren't many people like outside badgering. Like, and I guess it was weird because like COVID had everyone staying away. So like usually they're all up in your face, but I guess they put out safety measures to keep people away. So yeah. And where I was at, because I'm in a pretty small place, it's like the only people badgering there or like passing out information there were like people for the local offices. Like no one was there talking about the presidential election. No one was there talking even about like the governor or the what's Cunningham going for again?
He's going for Senate.
Senate, right? There's no one there to talk about the Senate or the governor. It was just basically like our local election. So I have no idea. Like I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah. If I could interrupt you really quick, we have updates from the election. Polls in Florida have closed, and we are at 31% reporting in Florida, and Joe Biden is winning in Florida 51-48. So that is a good sign. 31% is a real number. So if Joe Biden does end up winning Florida, like I said, turn off your TV, go get high with your fish, because the election will be over. And now Joe Biden has a 3-point lead in Florida. Georgia polls have closed. We have less than 1% in, and Donald Trump is winning in Georgia. Again, less than 1% in doesn't really tell us a lot, but right now Trump is up 67.4 to 32.6. It is going to narrow. South Carolina has closed as well, so we have less than 1% in South Carolina. Trump is up 63.3 to 36.7, which, again, it doesn't really tell us much because it's less than 1%, but there you have it. And Virginia, less than 1%. This state, I mean, it's considered a swing state, but it's really not. Like demographically and polling has it sort of solidly for Biden. But right now we have less than 1% of the vote in, and Donald Trump is up 69, nice, to 30% for Joe Biden. So those are our updates. And so do you want to do your story now?
Yeah, sure. I know you just said that, like, if Biden wins Florida, you might as well, like, cut everything off because we already know that Trump is going to win. But there's
That
this article.
Biden's
It's
gonna
pretty.
win.
Okay, I don't even know what I just said.
You said Trump, but anyway.
Yikes. Anyway,
Knock
hopefully,
on
like,
wood. Knock on wood.
shoot, let me find some wood. Hold on. Frick. I'm gonna do it afterward. Okay, because that's so serious. But the hope, of course, is that Biden wins the election and that Trump is gone and we can move on from this nonsense. But there's always that slim possibility that he will survive the re-election. And this article that I found is like, can America survive the re-election of Trump? And it's really deep, because these are things that, like, I have thought about for so long. And the only reason that Trump won in the first place, the only reason that he has so much popularity is because of what America was built on, right? Like, this is a quote from the article. It says, Trump represents a distinctive and dangerous form of America's bred authoritarianism. But condemning him for this isn't enough if we were to understand the forces at work in Trump's potential re-election and the slide of the United States into the pit of fascism, because we all know he's a fascist. So Trump is the outcome of a past that needs to be remembered, analyzed, and engaged for the lessons it could teach us about the president. I don't think that any event happens in a vacuum, right? So, like, Trump, like, I think we talked about this a few episodes ago. The fact that Trump is here is because Barack Obama got elected, right? And the fact that Barack Obama got elected is because of something else that happened before that. And so we really need to, if we want Trump to go, and it's not just him, right? If we want his supporters, if we want, like, all of the support that people are giving him for his crazy ideals, if we want that to, like, no longer exist, we really have to look at the past, and we really have to look at what America was and what America is, and then like, as a collective, we have to look at what we want America to be, for sure.
I agree. Like, I think I was actually thinking, if Trump got reelected, right? Like, what would America look like in 4 years, or maybe more, because he's openly talked about running more than 2 terms, because the first term was stolen from him, I guess. Like, this guy is so narcissistic that he said that the election was rigged and the election was stolen from him when he won.
Interesting.
Like, it's insane. But anyway, like, if Trump gets reelected, I mean, like, right off the bat, like, climate change, we're not going to do anything about climate change, because Trump openly said that climate change is a Chinese hoax, right?
Mm, mm, mm.
And he pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and the Paris Climate Agreement wasn't even like it wasn't even a Green New Deal, right? It was the bare minimum that we could have done. Like, during the negotiations for the Paris Climate Agreement, like, you had a lot of countries complaining that it didn't go far enough. Like, for example, I think Nicaragua originally didn't sign on because they thought it didn't go far enough. And Trump keeps saying, like, oh, it goes too far. We're being treated unfairly. Sad.
Oh my God, not
Yeah.
sad. You sound just like him.
Yeah, I've been working on my Trump impression. But yeah, so climate change, we're not going to deal with that. Like, objectively, the most important issue we face as a species.
Okay.
We're going to kick the can down the road for 4 more years. And here's the thing that I need people to understand. This planet literally cannot survive 4 more years of Donald Trump. Like,
Okay.
Biden's climate plan is not what I want it to be, but it is a plan, you know? it's not like do nothing. Or like with Trump, the best case scenario is he does nothing. Worst case scenario is he actively speeds up climate change.
Which it feels more probable. More.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
more. Oh my God.
And like another thing, if Donald Trump gets reelected, Supreme Court, bye-bye. And I'll talk about this later in the show, but Stephen Breyer, who is one of the 3 remaining liberal Supreme Court justices, he's in his 80s. He ain't gonna survive until 2024. So right now the Supreme Court is 6-3, and if Trump gets reelected, it goes 7-2, and that'll affect American politics and world politics for decades, like 3 or 4 decades. And I keep saying that, like, and a lot of people who know way more about the Supreme Court than me have said that for as bad as Biden's Supreme Court justices are going to be, for as centrist and neoliberal as they're going to be, I would take Merrick Garland every single second of every single day for the rest of my life over Amy Coney Barrett. And like, that's just the reality. Like, Donald Trump is replacing these old liberals with young conservatives.
Who have a lifetime.
Yeah, lifetime. And like, here's the insane thing that shows us just how screwed up the electoral system in America is. Democrats have won the popular vote in 6 out of the last 7 presidential elections, but Republicans have appointed 15 of the last 19 Supreme Court justices. Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I'm going to discuss the Supreme Court later on. But yeah, like just those 2 things, climate change and the Supreme Court. And also Trump has talked about running for more terms, so he might end democracy if he gets elected. Like, he keeps talking about don't count the votes, only count the Republican votes. He was asked, will you commit to a peaceful transfer of power? And he said no.
Right. And the crazy thing, like, whenever you said only count the Republican votes, that reminds me of, I think that South Carolina, whoever the heck he was, governor or
Lindsey Graham.
Right. Broken, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He was like, you can be Black or a young African American and live here as long as you vote Republican. And I'm like, that is like, so obviously Trump isn't the only one with those ideals. And what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that that if he does get reelected, whatever, and he doesn't like adhere to the four-year thing and like keeps going, he won't be the only one that does that. You know, like that governor will keep doing that. Other people will think that they can do that too, and it's just so fucked up.
Yeah,
period.
yeah. I couldn't agree more. But hey, Jamie Harrison in South Carolina, he has a pretty good shot of winning the Senate seat there. Just a quick update on the election. Florida, we are now at 58% of estimated votes reported, and Joe Biden's lead has gone down to 0.1%. So 49.6 to 49.5. Georgia, now Joe Biden is winning Georgia 53.3 to 45.6. Virginia, Trump is still ahead with 2%. Reporting. North Carolina, 15 votes are in North Carolina, and Trump has 14 votes, and Joe Biden has 1 vote. So that's fun, I guess.
Oh my God.
New Hampshire, 2% in. Biden is up 58 to 41. And yeah, that's it for now.
So this story, it really basically it says, it comes back to us as citizens. It says Americans, as a collective, we can survive Trump, and we can even survive a second term of him or whatever the fuck he decides to do if we resurrect a language of critique and possibility. And we, as a nation, develop a mass movement that draws from history and provides the economic, cultural, and political conditions to lift the U.S. out of this present-day socio-political morass. So basically, we need a vision that we can fight for, not just a fear that we can overcome, which is what Trump has become for this nation, a fear. We need a vision of what we want America to be. That's it.
Couldn't agree more. And by the way, we have a call. West Virginia has gone to Donald Trump. That was expected.
Mountain Mama.
He has won their 5 electoral votes. So now the electoral count is 13 electoral votes for Donald Trump and 3 for Joe Biden, with 522 remaining. So my second story of the night is actually a really interesting one, and it touches on something that we talked about a few episodes ago, but we didn't really get a chance to explore. So part of elections is a few states have referendums, right? I believe 4 states will be voting on legalizing marijuana, which is nice. And Oregon's doing something that's really interesting. They are voting on a resolution to decriminalize all drugs and legalize shrooms for medicinal use. And
yes.
Yeah, and I think that it's this brings up a really important debate that I think that we need to have on the left, because a lot of people agree on that we should legalize weed, right? I think it's at 2/3 of the country wants to legalize weed, but we don't really apply that logic to other drugs, right? I think that all drugs should be legal, and the reason I think that all drugs should be legal is basically because it's a civil rights issue, right? So the war on drugs has been so incredibly destructive for people of color, especially. We have these drug laws that are applied in explicitly racist ways, and there was this interview that one of Richard Nixon's top aides gave, and he literally admitted that the point of the war on drugs was to lock up Black people and white liberals.
So, fucking weak.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull up the quote here because it is really, really telling. So Nixon aide reportedly admitted drug war was meant to target Black people. So this is John Ehrlichman, who was Richard Nixon's chief domestic advisor when the president announced the war on drugs in 1971. And in an interview, he said the following, quote, "You want to know what this was really all about? The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and Black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or Black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and Blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did." So this is basically one of Nixon's top aides admitting that, like, how we talk about the war on drugs and the locking up disproportionately of African Americans, that wasn't an unintended consequence. That was literally the entire point.
And it worked.
Yeah, it did work. It was literally the entire point of the drug war. So just for moral reasons, we should, at the very least, decriminalize all drugs. But I would argue that we should actually legalize all drugs. And the reason why is very simple, because when, like, follow my logic here, when something is illegal, that means that the black market has a monopoly on the product, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
Yeah, of course.
The black market has a monopoly on the product. So it is incredibly difficult for people who are drug users to have access to safe drugs when the only way to get them is on the black market.
Okay.
And, like, we don't even need to, like, see this as a thought experiment, because, like, we know what happens, because during Prohibition, people would get sick and die because of a bad batch of alcohol.
Okay. Okay.
And how many people do you know that died from a bad batch of alcohol after alcohol was legal? None. Nobody. Because it doesn't happen. Because when something is legalized, taxed, and regulated, it's much easier to regulate those products so they are less dangerous. And you can, like, if you're addicted to heroin or cocaine or whatever, you can get it at a legal place of business instead of from some guy who made the drugs in his bathtub in Guadalajara.
Okay. And probably mixed it with something that doesn't even belong in your body. Like, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. And the perfect example of this is Philip Seymour Hoffman, right? The actor. He died because he used a bad batch of heroin, right? He got a bad batch of heroin, and he used his typical dose of heroin that wouldn't normally kill him, but because it was laced with other substances, and because you couldn't have the government come in and regulate the heroin, he died from a dose that normally he would be completely fine with because it was laced with other substances. So if heroin were legal and if drugs were legal, Philip Seymour Hoffman would still be alive.
Okay. And many other people as well.
Yeah,
but yes.
yeah.
Hell yes. And then I'm just thinking, like, from an economic standpoint, the money, the revenue that industry would bring to the states or the nation is incredible.
It's insane. It's insane. We would get so much tax money if we legalize tax and regulate drugs. Like in New York, right? New York decriminalized recreational marijuana. But in Massachusetts and Vermont, I believe, it's legal. So it is completely legal for you to drive to Massachusetts, buy weed there, drive back to New York, and consume it in New York. And
you just can't buy it in New York.
Yeah, and Massachusetts gets all the tax revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So New York is losing so much tax revenue, like hundreds of billions of dollars a year, by not legalizing weed, and extrapolate that to all drugs.
Okay. Can you imagine? I feel like roads would be fixed. Probably our property taxes would be lowered. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be great, and it's the right thing to do. Not only is it the financially sound thing to do, it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because think about it, how many people have had their lives ruined because they were they had a nonviolent drug offense on their records? How many people can't get jobs because they have a nonviolent drug offense? How many people lost custody of their kids because they were caught with a little bit of weed?
Too many.
Yeah,
too many
way too many. It literally ruins lives.
As it was designed to do, as you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
As you said earlier.
So by the time you all see this, you may already know if Oregon decriminalizes all drugs. But I really, really hope they do.
Me too.
Anything else you want to add?
Just, this reminds me of like what we talked about last week about the Iraq War, how it was now that we know the truth, we're still not doing anything about it. Like, right? Like, we know we shouldn't be in Afghanistan, but we're still in Afghanistan. We know that the war on drugs is bullshit. Like, he said it straight from his mouth that it's bullshit, but yet and still there's still this war on drugs. So it's just crazy, like all of these really fucked up laws or actions that we took as a nation a long time ago that have hurt and harmed so many people, not just Americans, but people globally. And like, we're still doing those things. I don't get it.
We have an election call, by the way, before we move on to your next story. Joe Biden has won Virginia, and he will carry their 13 electoral votes, meaning that Joe Biden now has a 3 electoral vote lead in the Electoral College, 16-13, with 509 left to go. A little more just housekeeping. North Carolina, Donald Trump is winning North Carolina still with less than 1%. Georgia, Trump is winning Georgia 52-46 with 5% reporting. Florida, we have 80% of votes in, and Joe Biden is slightly ahead, 49.9 to 49.1. Quick reminder, it doesn't matter the margin of victory. If Joe Biden wins Florida, he wins all of their electoral votes. So it doesn't matter if he wins by 1 vote or 1 million votes. He wins the same number of electoral votes. Texas, less than 1% in, and Donald Trump is up 63.6 to 36.4, literally 7 votes to 4 votes. So it is very, very early. So don't read too much into that. And yeah, that's it. So your second story of the day.
My second story of the day is about, it's not really a story, it's more of a podcast, but like you can find the transcript online at onbeing.com because it's amazing, or onbeing.org. Anyway, this one kind of follows what I was talking about with my last story, how like we as Americans have to come together, but this one really focuses on white Americans and what white Americans can do. I mean, it focuses on white Americans, but this can apply to everyone. So basically, this is it's talking about how the election will be over soon. Thank God, whatever happens, it's going to be over. Amen. But that this year has surfaced deep human challenges that remain our callings and possibilities for growth for the foreseeable future. So a lot has come up, and whatever happens in these next 4 years is going to affect the future of, honestly, the globe, as we talked about earlier. And it's just about, it's a conversation between John Biewen and Krista Tippett, and it's talking about how at an individual level, you can, and at an individual level as a human person, but also as a white American, you can go back and look at the narratives of your past. You can go back and look at the narratives of the history, and you can choose not to abide by those narratives, and you can choose to write a whole new narrative for your kids and for future generations. And how if enough individuals come together and make that change individually, it becomes a movement that many people can do that will change the way and the shape of history. So yeah, it's really good. If you want to read it or listen to it, it's onbeing.org. But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's freaking great.
Just a plug, not spawn.
Not spawn at all, though it would be nice if they did. But like, dude, honestly, it's like, I'm so obsessed with what it means to be a human. I don't know if that is weird or not, but I think like there are so many like qualities that we don't often see in the media, or that we don't often see like in other people, because we're so focused in our own world that it's hard to realize that we have some of the same qualities, even if we don't look alike, even if we don't grow up in the same like atmosphere, the same, I don't know how to say this. Or like, even though we didn't grow up in the same ways, weren't raised in the same ways, there's still things that we all have in common no matter where we are. I think that's the first step that we need to focus on whenever we're talking about anything. Politics, policies, the election, fuck it, like anything that we do, we should always look at it from a human standpoint as a human.
Yeah. That reminds me of a really important quote that from Michael Brooks, who was a podcaster who sadly passed away extremely young this year. But he has this quote, right, that it's be empathetic towards people and be ruthless towards institutions.
Oof, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, and like after this election, there's going to be a lot of healing that needs to be done, you know?
For sure.
Like, we are incredibly polarized right now.
For sure.
It's like you can't get Americans to agree on whether the sky is blue. Like it's that polarized. So like no matter who wins, like we need to remember that like we're all one incredibly messed up dysfunctional family. Like
Truly.
because like this thing that Trump keeps saying that like oh the blue states, right? Like oh the blue states are disastrous, these democrat run cities are a disaster, Portland's a disaster, New York City is an anarchist jurisdiction. He actually said that.
Oh my
um
God.
and like Joe Biden's just saying I don't see blue states and red states, I see the United States of America.
Yeah.
Like Obama in his 2004 DNC speech, he said, there is no blue America, there is no red America, there's the United States of America. Like, we're all one happy question mark family.
Okay.
So yeah, there's like, no matter who wins, there's going to have to be a lot of healing that's going to have to be done after this election. A lot of people are going to have to do a lot of healing.
For sure. For sure. For sure. Yeah. And that's basically what that story talks about. Oh my God, yeah. A lot of healing. Shit, we need to start right now. But that was my story.
Okay, so my final story of the day is about the Supreme Court. Since our last episode, Amy Coney Barrett got on the Supreme Court, and now the Supreme Court is 6-3. 6 conservatives to 3 liberals. And that is incredibly troubling because, like we said last episode, there is nothing that you care about that can survive a Supreme Court that is that conservative. So, like, let's say Biden wins tonight and the Democrats win back the Senate and keep the House. So they have all 3 branches of government. Let's say they manage to pass a $15 minimum wage. It would be so easy for the Supreme Court to say, nope, unconstitutional, throw it out. So Amy Coney Barrett getting on the Supreme Court made it so that it is going to be incredibly hard for us to get even minor change accomplished. Like, even the most minor of minor changes is going to be incredibly, incredibly difficult. And the thing that really grinds my gears in a way is that the Democrats keep acting like there's nothing they could have done. And that isn't true. There's actually a lot that they could have done. They could have, for example, passed weekly budgets that take precedence over Supreme Court nominations. Like Pelosi in the House could have said, no, we need to pass a new budget every week. and that would have needed to be voted on first. They could have also impeached Attorney General Bill Barr to slow down the process. They could have required unanimous consent for everything McConnell wanted to do. They could have shut down the government.
Okay.
They could have done so much to slow down this confirmation, but they made an assessment that if Amy Coney Barrett gets on the court, that they could fundraise off of it and that they could drive up voter turnout with it.
I don't get it.
Like immediately after Amy Coney Barrett got on the court, I mean, the Democratic senators did a virtual filibuster, which, by the way, isn't a thing. It's like, yeah, like it's basically them resisting without resisting.
And you said fundraise. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so immediately after Amy Coney Barrett got on the court, all of the Democratic Senate candidates, like I said, I got so many emails from Democratic Senate candidates saying, oh, donate to me to take back the court. Donate to the Democrats to take back the court. And all of the Democrats in unison were like, vote, vote, vote. You need to go vote. This is what happens when Republicans win. Now you need to go vote. You need to go vote to take back the court. Take back the court. This is the people's court.
Oh my God.
But here's the problem with that. That is like literally one of the stupidest things they could have done. Because them not fighting on Amy Coney Barrett means that even if we do vote, it will be incredibly hard to get anything done. So your vote counts a lot less.
That's so fucking stupid. That sounds like a last resort. That seems like that's so fucking stupid.
It's like the Democrats are paid to lose.
Wow.
Like,
wow.
You know that that Michelle Obama line where she said, "When they go low, we go high."
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the Democrats are like, when they go low, we go okay. No, I'm serious, because like the Republicans blocked Merrick Garland for a year. And you're saying that you can't block Barrett for a month?
1 month, 30 days.
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
I mean,
can't make this up.
Yeah, you really can't make it up. And like, I bet like our listeners they're gonna know what I'm about to say, but primary all of them. Every single one of them. JusticeDemocrats.com. Donate to them. Not Spawn, but totally could be Spawn.
Okay.
So yeah, we need to get Democrats with backbone. Like the Republicans do stuff like this because they know that the Democrats don't have the balls to fight back. They know that the Democrats aren't going to put up a fight. So we need to put up a fight.
Every day.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts?
Wow. I'm still stuck on what you just said about how they let her get in. Like, to me, how they let her get the seat and then was like, this is why you need to vote. Like, they should have been doing everything to keep her from getting the seat. Because if that's the point they were trying to make, like, oh, this is what not voting does, that's the stupidest point to make, because it's going to last for years. That's a lifetime. She's a lifetime appointment. Like, it doesn't matter if your point got across, like you said, because the votes aren't even going to matter because she's already in the position. So
Amy Coney Barrett is 48. She's going to be on the Supreme Court for like 30 to 40 years, at least.
At least 30 to 40 years. And we've already seen what 30 to 40 years can do. If we're talking, like, let's go back to the war on drugs. That was only 40 years ago. That's when it started. And we already see the damage that it's done on so many people's lives. So just imagine the damage that she can do in that position of power. Like, 40 years is a lifetime. This is so upsetting to me. I'm very upset right now. I'm very upset.
Yeah.
Like,
by the way, we have some election calls. Oklahoma, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, and Tennessee have gone for Trump. And Illinois, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island have gone for Biden. So in the Electoral College, Joe Biden has 85 electoral votes, and Trump has 55. Texas is now 10% in. Joe Biden is winning in Texas, 59.4 to 39.3. So still too early to call, but up by 10. Florida, Joe Biden is now up by 0.2 with 83% of the votes in. Georgia, Joe Biden is winning 50 to 49. North Carolina, Trump is winning 62 to 37 with less than 1% in. Pennsylvania, Joe Biden is winning 79.9 to 18.8 with 1% in. Ohio, Joe Biden is up 58 to 40 with 31% in. And Indiana, Donald Trump is up 67 to 30 with 18% in.
So these votes, this is just from like voting in person. This like what the
Well, some are and some aren't. So like Florida, for example. Florida, they're used to doing their to getting a lot of mail-in votes. So they're used to having like a lot of mail-in vote selections. So they're really, really good at counting absentee ballots as soon as they come in. And other states like the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, they're not really used to getting such a huge number of mail-in votes. So it's going to take a little bit longer.
Do we know? I feel like you gave a date last time for when we know for sure. Like, is there a date?
I mean, like probably like mid to late November, we're going to know who won. But there are ways to kind of get a sense of what happened from election night. So like, for example, if Florida goes Biden, it's over. Like I said, you can't even draw a map where Trump wins the election if he loses Florida. If Georgia goes for Biden, it's over. If Texas goes for Biden, it's over. So like we're gonna have a sense, but we're not gonna know for sure.
Got it. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like how I just thought about it, how like you were like, because for me, I don't like to look at anything until I know for sure what the results are. Like I don't even care about guessing or predicting, but you can use this to look back at like later on if someone is campaigning to see like, oh, this is where this state went, this is where that state went, this is what this is. So I think that's pretty cool. I just thought about that.
Yeah.
Right. I guess it's time for my last story, and it's
Indeed it
really short.
is.
Woo! It's pretty short, and basically it still has to do with my, you know, obsession with being a human. And it's from Brain Pickings, who I love, not Spawn. And it's pretty personal, but it definitely can be applied to the global or national. Like, it can be applied outside of yourself. So basically, it's about I don't know how to say this person's name, and it sucks, but it's James Baldwin, and he wrote a book about the musician Michelle something. It rekindles the fire of truth for our time. And this is just stuck out to me from it. It's, you think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read. And it was books that taught me that the things that tormented me most were the very things that connected me with all the people who are alive and who had ever been alive. And this kind of actually goes back to my first story. I don't even know if I pointed it out about how, like, Trump has really, or even it has, as a nation, we've become less critical and less educated on our history, and so it's really easy for like shit like this to happen. And so if you stop and take a minute and you read a book that obviously was written before your time, you can see what has happened, and then you can like feel a bigger connection to other people or someone else, and you can see hope at the end of the tunnel, really, which takes me back. This isn't in this article, but it's really important to me. And it's, I think Martin Luther King said it, like, the moral arc of history is long, but it goes towards justice or something like that. Like,
It bends
yes, right
towards
now,
justice.
there we go. It bends towards justice, and it's long. And I think we forget that very important part. Like, it's going to take time and it's going to take effort for us to get to justice. So even though we're in the shithole right now and we might not get out of it, I don't fucking know, but even though we're here now, like, there's still time to get to justice, and we've been in worse positions than we are now before. So it's not something to get like really like, wow, oh my god, it's the end of the world about. So just to keep perspective. Boom, that's it. That was my story.
Yeah, like, I think that a lot of people, like, sort of, I don't know, like, sort of overreact when it comes to, like, oh, this is the biggest deal when it isn't. But, like, going back to the election, like, I think if Trump wins, we're like, it's gonna take decades for us to like undo all the damage he's gonna do, you know? So like,
I mean, this is definitely a big deal, and this is definitely a big election, but it's not the end of the world. Like, I can only imagine people who've lived through World War II or World War I, like, they probably thought it was the fucking end of the world. But here we are in 2020, for better or worse, like, whatever it is. So, like, even though, yeah, that's all, yeah. Am I making sense? Whatever.
yeah, you are. Like, I just think that, I mean, like, the end of the world, like, is like, it's interesting that you've used that phrase, because like it might literally be the end of the world because of climate change, you know?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm reading way too much into this. But like, climate change is just like a really, really important thing. And like, I especially like in 2020, like, I'm reminded of because I'm a theater kid. There's this song in the musical Avenue Q called For Now. And one of the most famous lines in the song is, except for death and paying taxes, everything in life is only for now.
Oh.
But like, I think that that's interesting. But this attitude of like, we'll get through this and like we'll come out the other side, like, there seems to be this sort of shared understanding, especially with COVID-19, that some of us won't get through this. Like,
Yeah.
250,000 Americans almost have died of COVID-19. Like, that's more than all the American casualties in Vietnam, World War I, Iraq, and Afghanistan combined. So, like, yeah, it's nice to think that, like, we'll get through this, and if we just stick together, anything can happen, and, like, keep hope alive. But, like, I think it's also important to acknowledge when we're in the shit, you know?
Of course. Of course. Of
Like,
course.
maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but yeah, like, that's 2020 for you.
Okay. I don't know. This is the TikTok song, low key fuck 2020. Like, honestly, it was shit. It is shit.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure next year might be shit too, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Like, I was reading this. I don't know who this is by. I wish I could credit the original person who said this, but basically this election is going to determine whether 2020 is the worst year ever or the last good year we'll ever have. So if Biden gets elected, 2020 is going to be the worst year ever. But if Trump gets reelected, we're going to think back like, oh man, remember 2020? That was awesome.
I'm so weak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that does it for us for this episode of Unrestrained. Before we go, I just wanted to update you all on the state of the election. North Carolina is still at less than 1% in. I don't know why it's taking so long for them to count these votes. Georgia, Donald Trump is up by 10 in Georgia. Texas, wow. This is big. 26% of the vote has been counted in Texas, and Joe Biden is winning 56-43 in Texas.
Nice.
That is insane. Absolutely insane. Things could change, but 26% in, that's a good amount. Ohio, 41% in, and Joe Biden is up 56-43. Florida, 89% of the vote has been counted, and Donald Trump has retaken the lead, 50.3 to 48.7. So it is definitely not over in Florida. Pennsylvania, 3% in, and Joe Biden is up 83-16. Michigan, 1% in, and Joe Biden is up 58.9 to 39.7. And New Hampshire, 8% in, and Joe Biden is up 54-45. Montana, not Montana, Missouri, excuse me. Donald Trump is up 64-34. Kansas, 20% in. Joe Biden is up in Kansas, 57-41. And just let me turn over to the Senate elections. because the Senate is also really important. Let me see if there are any updates there. So right now, in the fight for the Senate, we have Democrats with 42 Senate seats and Republicans with 34, so 24 Senate seats remaining. The Democrats have won in Illinois, in Virginia, in New Jersey, in Delaware, in New Hampshire, in Massachusetts, and in Rhode Island. The Republicans have won in Kentucky, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and West Virginia. In Texas, MJ Hagar, the Democrat, is up with 26% in. North Carolina, Tom Tillis is up with less than 1%. I don't know why they're taking so long to count the votes.
Yeah.
South Carolina, we have 7% of the vote in, and Jamie Harrison is up on Lindsey Graham, 53.7 to 45.3. Georgia, David Perdue is leading John Ossoff. So Republicans are winning in Georgia, 55.7 to 42.4. Kansas, less than 1% in, and the Republican Roger Marshall is up 53.9 to 43.0. And that's it. So any final thoughts, Skye?
Shit. Just gonna cross my fingers and wait and see. Honestly, yep. But no, that's really all that I can do right now. All that any of us can do, right? Because it's over. But yeah.
Same here. So we will see you in 2 weeks. Hopefully we will have the result of the election by then. And so see you then. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, friends.